Board games, board games. We might be talking about board games, board games, but we're not gonna shout. We are starting off this streaming with a bit of singing and dancing, and over is the person that you call Phil. Phil is a version of themself, I guess that's redundant to say. Anyway, they are French, by the way, they've made a lot of games. They illustrate and they design these games. I don't know if they are great because, truth be told, I've not played any of the games, so I can't vouch for any of these names, but I'm sure that are great. But anyway, I'm impressed, and congratulations on getting out of bed and getting dressed. Phil Vizcarro is what we're talking about. Phil Vizcarro, we're gonna meet but not shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. It's time for Busy Beats and Board Game Bladder, 10 a.m. UK time. Hello, Timmy. It is, as always, lovely to see you, and I'm delighted to have with me today Phil Vizcarro, and we met on Facebook. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So we chatted. I think it was basically because of my game, a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after some mixed noises. And I think it was with that original title that you got in touch saying, hey, this is quite a cool idea. How do you feel about this game being published by a very small French publisher? And I was like, oh, that sounds quite exciting. Let's talk more. And the truth is that for the past well, since the start of 2020, although I did have it on a long break, I was like, okay, now I'm going to be more serious. I'm going to go to Nuremberg and make meetings, and then go to Cannes and make meetings. Like, not just go to Cannes for pleasure, like I did the first time I went, but actually make meetings with people and cocktail games and Helvetics. They were impressed and like, and these are people that like I would love to work with. Like I'd love to work more with Gigamic or one day with Hasbro or Mattel. Obviously, that would be amazing if a big company like that. And the truth is, I love self-publishing because you get so much authorial control over it, and you can do something in exactly the way you want, and you feel so much satisfaction when you're going around all the convention and it's like, this is my game, check this out, and you see people playing it, and it's such a satisfaction. But the truth is, for me, my self-publishing has just not been financially successful, and I've managed to, it's been going along, but if I look at, okay, I want to be able to continue to do this full time, then, and not kind of be borrowing more and more money off people, then I do need to work with the biggest publishers I can find. But then at the same time, there is a separate joy in working with smaller people, whether that's for something that doesn't get signed up, whether that's, for something that's the interim that we can talk about your model, or whether that's maybe, I don't know, potentially a bigger publisher might be interested in the English rights, or potentially whether that's for whatever reason, for the excitement of saying, this is a game that, well, let's talk about you. This isn't meant to be about me. That's how we got to know each other. And it was like, yeah, let's get to know each other. Let's talk for a while because you're in France. The timing should be good. So who are you and what would you like people to know about you right now before we even proceed?
Well, as you said, my name is Phil Vizcarro. So I'm not really, I don't consider myself as a big name in the board game industry because they are big names, obviously. Some people we always see, we'll always hear about, and I'm not considering myself as that. I consider myself as independent author. Like I see board games as the movie industry. That's how I approach it. So for me, they are Hollywood, and they are independent movie studios. So it's the same with the board games for me. I
I
mean,
kind of feel like independent board game studios aren't even like the things that you would find at Sundance. I mean, independent board game studios are kind of like um, someone making a cool movie like the Angry Video Game Nerd or something like that, where it doesn't even go to anywhere, but then you're doing these things in your house and you're trying to make the best thing you can, and you've got this tiny following. But I just think that the scale between, if Hasbro is Hollywood, then we don't deserve to be called Sundance. We are like even smaller by comparison, I think.
something like that, yeah. Yeah, you do your game and it's played by my 15 people, and you're happy about it, and the game is great and the game is cool, but that's always the thing. It's when you go to conventions and with your games, and you have people playing your games, and when they know you're the game designer, they're not gonna say exactly what they think. I mean, if they like it, they're gonna say they like it, obviously. But if they didn't like it, or if they had some issues with the game, some people will say the issues they have, but some won't. And this can be a problem. I
Yeah, I
try.
get what you mean. I mean, it's also, I find that there are some designers, I mean, who don't want their ego shattered. Some designers, they even come to a playtest, and then if you actually tell them, oh, this is an issue, this is an issue, this is an issue, but like for your target audience, then you might even say, this is one part of the game. This one part of the game is really brilliant. If you get rid of, this chunk, this part might be like amazing and this could be really successful. But then they're so demotivated by the fact that you've said to them that parts of it are bad, that they don't even want to get rid of that they just don't come back. And that's a problem. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that you yourself, you've gotten over that. You have enough of an ego to say, hey, even if my game is rubbish, it doesn't mean that I, as a person, are rubbish. You've got to separate yourself. But how do we solve that problem? I mean, as when you're playtesting a designer's game at a convention, if it's not an actual playtest, are you nicer? Would you say?
Well, I don't know. When if I'm playing a game, that's someone else's game, and he wants my feedback, I'm gonna give him my feedback. Of course, you have to choose your words. Even if you thought that was the worst game you've ever played, you're not gonna say to this person, "It's the worst game I've ever played," because it's just mean. And it doesn't help saying that to someone. Your game is crap or something like that. It doesn't help. I mean, what can help is okay, what I enjoyed is that, and what I didn't enjoy or enjoyed less is this. So and you can talk with the person, but the problem is too is that some people, when they're playing your game, they're just doing one game, and they already have like 1,000 ideas, like how you can change your game. And if you just say, okay, well, I've tried that already and it doesn't work, and some people take it good and some people have ego issues too. I've had people starting to hate me, but really hate me, because just because I didn't took their advices on some of my games. But you can just change your game 100% every time someone tells you something. You have to remember that you are working on this game for maybe months, maybe years sometimes. So it's not just one idea that you can just take all the ideas. Some ideas are going to be great, and some things you would have never thought of it. But I think it's important. What I do when I bring games to people, I don't always tell them that I'm the game designer. You know, I do that like I would be someone just animating the games, presenting the games. And I
Um,
find that there are
Sorry, Phil, can I just ask you, Do you have headphones like in this room or in the next room? Would you be able to put on headphones?
Let me try. Give me a minute.
Thank you very much. I will fill in the time.
Okay.
I just it's
I'll be right.
there's just a bit of feedback for technical issues, so yeah. But I think this is such a great point that, and what Phil said about saying something nice and something you don't like, it's kind of like a compliment sandwich. If I'm at a convention and I really feel, and well, if I want to say anything negative, first I will ask the person, do you even want to have any feedback? And if they want any feedback, then I will try to do a compliment sandwich, try to say, oh, even if the best thing I can think of to say is, I'm really impressed that you've gotten the game this far. That's something you can always say. And then you maybe say, oh, but maybe this you could work on. But again, good on you for coming to this convention. And it looks like you've been working on it for a very long time. Even if you can't say anything nice, if I say that, then that means basically that I can't find anything nice to say about the game. But hopefully it shields the ego and hopefully it makes it a bit less important. And yes, when you're talking about the ego of the playtesters, this is why I find that at dedicated, with practiced designers, you don't need to worry about that ego. You just say, this is bad, this is bad. And that's what I want to hear. As a designer, I want to hear what's bad. Maybe later on it's like, is this worth carrying on? Do you like it? Let's give it thumbs up, how it's a 5. And so I can tell, is this good enough even to be worth carrying on with? Because you've got a million ideas. And so if this game isn't going anywhere, I'm okay if it's like, let's get rid of this. And that's the key thing. Whereas and people will say something, I'll just be like, thanks. And how about you? And I don't need to cushion their ego. Whereas, yes, if it was at a convention, if it was with someone who wasn't familiar with that, I might have to say, thank you very much. I will give a bit of thought to that. And I might have to be a bit, obviously, if someone's coming over and it's people who don't normally playtest games and are coming over for an evening at my house and then playtest just my games, obviously in that scenario I will thank them much more just because they are there anyway. And but what I will normally do is playtest my game. Like on Tuesday we playtested Seize the Power, and then we chatted, and then we playtested a totally different game that was published by someone else, and it wasn't my design. So like it but then again, we had a bit of a chat, and it was interesting because when you get into that mindset, every game that you play, even if the designer isn't there, then you get into the habit of deconstructing it and saying, oh, this thing I like, this thing I didn't like. And then afterwards, it's actually really useful just about the gamers, because then you learn, okay, these are the things my friends like. Like Doric really doesn't love this aspect, but this other friend does. And so talking is always good. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I really. It can be difficult for me because I'm kind of a social outcast. I'm pretty weird with people. So I'm not really comfortable when I go to conventions or things like that. I try to look like I'm okay, but I'm not really okay. So having people playing my games can be stressful at the beginning. But as I try to do games that are fun and that are enjoyable, I usually see people laughing, so they are having a good time, so I'm having a good time, and that eases me into it. What can be easier for me is playtesting with friends, but I mean real friends, the kind of friends that will say to you, "Man, this idea is not a good idea," you know. Uh, so that's better for me because I know them, they know me, they know they won't crush my ego, and they know they can, and they have to. I have friends that when we play some of my games, they always try to find the flaws in gameplay. like how they can bend the game and something like that. And of course, when you see them do it, I'm not having a good time, but you have to do it, because I much better want my friends when we are playtesting the game before it's out finding a flaw than some people buying it in like
Yeah,
6
it's
months.
kind of like, imagine if you had, a bit of food on your chin. And, for some people, they may, I'm not going to deny there are some people who have impairment issues, and maybe, to take the food off every time during your eating, it's just too much bother. But let's say you've finished the meal. If it's someone who's kind of your friend, maybe they will just ignore it. Maybe they think you're being nice. But a good friend should say, hey, you've got food on your chin. And if you physically can't, do that, then they might give you a bit of a hand and overcome that embarrassment. If, you have an able body like ourselves, then you will expect a person to, oh, let me quickly look on the mirror on the phone and wipe it. And yes, it's a much better friend who's able to, as you say, give that negative feedback. I think it's analogous. You wouldn't send someone out into the world to go dancing when they've got food on their chin. And by the same token, you shouldn't send
With
someone
salad on
to...
your teeth, salad on your teeth. And every time
Sure.
there's a big chunk of green on your mouth. Please tell me I have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you're in the middle of eating, then fine, you're in the middle of eating. Wait until after the end of the meal. Yeah, if anyway, the point. So that aside, let's move on and talk about some recent highlights. Recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. What are some of the things that you've been up to of late? What are some of the things you've been doing, and what is the last game you played?
The things I've been doing, I had a rough month of June with a lot of work. I had a game on crowdfunding. It was on Ulule. It's a French version of Kickstarter. The game was called Jojo le pigeon narcoleptique, which means translates to Jojo the narcoleptic pigeon. So it's a game about pigeons that are having narcolepsy. This illness. It's
Oh yes,
where
they
you
fall
suddenly
asleep.
fall asleep. Yeah. So it's a survival game of sorts with dice. You have to roll dice and keep doing a great score. But if you have two dice that are showing the same number, you go into narcolepsy and you die. So it's a fun party game.
It
And
does sound good, and there's so many games. We'll get into this, but that you just don't have on Board Game Geek. Is there? You've been working on, you said 40 games in the past 4 years.
I have pretty much. I think I have more than 40 games that have been released in different sorts.
Does that so that's things that you personally designed?
Yeah, game. When I say games that I have more than 40 games, I mean as a game designer.
And is that so? For those who don't know, you're a game designer, you're an illustrator, and you're a publisher, and juggling all of these things. So that's, I mean, I guess that includes expansions, or does it not even include that?
No expansions. It's not the way I see games. As I told you earlier, I see games as movies, and in movies you never see expansions. Or George Lucas does it, but
I mean, you have a couple of expansions on your Board Game Geek page.
Yeah, but you see, I've done Danny, and we had a game that's called Danny Goes to Hollywood in English. Danny se fait des films en français, in French. It's a standalone expansion, so it's not really an expansion. I have an expansion for the game for Hollywood Racers, but initially that was in the core game. But for cost purposes, they had to cut it in two. But and again, these two games are not Cosmoduck games. these are games I've done for other publishers.
And I just want to kind of say that makes it almost like one game every month.
Yeah, and that's the plan we had for a moment, until we came to the conclusion that releasing, even if we had them, releasing a game each month might shorten the life expectancy of previous games, you know. So that's not exactly what we're doing. But we started, Cosmoduck, we started with the first project we published was called the Roll and Write Collection. It was a collection of 15 roll and writes, and people, it was a subscription type thing. People took a subscription, and during 1 year, each month, they would receive in their mailbox, physical mailbox, I mean, a physical version of a game. So they had, during 1 year, they received, during the course of 1 year, they received 15 games. And I've seen you participated in a project similar to that, like a collection of roll and write in a box.
The Dice and Ink. A quick hello to Xate. It is lovely to see you. Yes, I did contribute to Dice and Ink. I don't know if that's what you mean, but let's get back to the recent highlights. So we were talking about what we've been up to recently. And just to let people know, yesterday I went out to Mambo and Cha-Cha-Cha. I have to admit, I wasn't a big fan of the instructor, because whereas last time that I'd been there, the instructor was more focused on the technique, on what you do, and like guiding you through the things. This time, if you make a mistake, the instructor was like, no, everyone needs to get this thing correct together, and we will start from the beginning, like a routine. Like we had to memorize this routine. And it was like, you know, I'm not coming to memorize a routine. I'm coming to learn how to dance. There's a difference. Do you know what I mean? But then at the same time, it was lovely. And there were, I don't know if it's because of the heat, but there were only 3 people in the class. So got to lots of attention. So that was good. And Xate says, recent highlights, I threw a surprise birthday party for the Ukrainian refugee staying with me, and she said it was her best birthday ever. That sounds fantastic.
That's great.
Congratulations. Yeah. And let's move on to, if anyone wants to ask Phil anything, then now is the time. The questionably quick questions is the next section. It's not an interrogation. It's just the questionably quick questions section. Meeple or figurine?
Do you have questions too?
Meeple or figurine?
Excuse me. Meeple or figurine? Meeple.
Okay. Cards or, I mean, you've already been asked this.
Don't say dice. Please don't say dice. Don't say cards or dice.
I'm going to say cards or boxes.
Cards or boxes? Well,
which do you think is more important for the game?
What's more important for the game? Cards, because that's the thing you play with.
Okay. Illustration or rules design?
Rules design, you say?
Pardon?
Illustration. You said illustration.
Illustration or rules? Art or rules?
Oh man, it has to be rules. It has to be the story of the game, because if the rules are understandable, it doesn't matter how great the game looks. You're not going to be able to play it. So yeah, but illustrations are really important. That's something we'll have to talk about later, maybe. But yeah.
If you were allowed to fly, but flying meant that you could no longer ever walk in your life, would you do it? So that means you can do these amazing things, but for the rest of your life, people know that you are this person who can't walk and you just kind of fly around everywhere.
And hovering. Okay, you can hover.
Sure, but then people might look at you like you're this experiment, and then the government might come to you and try to take you somewhere.
Man, I don't know. Your questions are tricky. I'd say I'd say I'd fly.
You would, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I've
would-
dreamed about flying too much time to say no.
Okay, say it asks you, you get two bad choices. Either all your clothes have to be backwards for 1 year, or you wear a full clown's outfit for 1 month. Which one do you pick?
Well, I'll say the clown outfit. It's okay. I've won worse than that.
For 1 entire month?
For my entire teenage years, maybe.
I mean, I'm assuming that you're allowed to change the clown's outfit, so it's not like you have to wear the same clown's outfit. You can wash it, and yeah, just the makeup and like the white foundation, that would get really hot. And Xate wants to know, what have you worn that's worse than the clown's outfit, and do you have pictures you can show us?
Hopefully I don't have pictures left. But I was a teenager, you know. I was wearing, I don't know, that wasn't going great. One time when I was like I don't know, 17, I wanted to wear a do-rag. You know, it's a thing for people who have for Afro Americans, usually for people that have Afro hair. It's like it's like you have a tissue like on your head. I didn't need that, but I thought that was cool, so I wanted to buy one. Hopefully, the guy in the shop nearly threw me out, so I ended up not wearing this, and I think it's for the better. Yeah, I wore the rest all the time
when I played inline hockey. And the final question that I will ask. Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you 3 more questions. Books or podcasts?
The first one is what?
Books.
What did you say?
Yeah,
books. Yeah. Books. Yeah, of course. Books.
Okay. And what was the last book you read? And who would you recommend it to?
The last book I read was I'm the worst in remembering the names. It was a book a friend offered me. It was called what was the name? Le guerrier pacifiste in France, like the pacifist warrior. I don't know if it exists in English, but it's a great book.
And so, is it historical? Is it like a
thriller? It's like semi-autobiographic. It's from a guy who did sports, and he tells how he met some guy that was old but really strong, and with that had a way of living completely different, and he taught him many things and some ways to like meditate. It's really hard to explain. It's a book you have to read and you have to journey with. You know. It can't really be explained. It won't do it justice.
Oh wow! I mean, it sounds like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance almost. If that you have to read it and enjoy the journey of it. But my final question is: would you rather have a duck-sized meeple, or would you rather have a meeple-sized duck?
Oh, I love ducks. So a meeple-sized duck, I could take with me anywhere. Yeah, that would turn my girlfriend crazy, and she hates ducks. so yeah, I take that.
Okay, and Xate wants to. Yes, we sometimes bring out the old classic questions. Yes, and Xate suggests that maybe being a girl, it's less bad wearing a do-rag because it's at least keeping the hair back. But for all I know, Phil might have had hair down to their bum. I don't know. Did you have long hair?
At the time, no. I had longer hair later, but that would have been
was just a weird thing.
That would have been a terrible combo.
Right. Let's talk about Brilliant Thing. Brilliant Thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Phil, what are one of your favorite things? Let me know. I mean, I would like to say headphones are brilliant because they stop feedback loops. Because previously, when you didn't have your headphones on, whenever you were talking, there was feedback. But
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry
until
about
I
that.
muted myself. But what is one of your brilliant things?
Toys.
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 What do you
Toys
count as a
from,
toy? I see figurines behind you. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, toys from the 80s. I collect toys. Toys that I might had when I was a kid. Toys like this one. I came prepared, like Masters of the Universe. I keep them in boxes. Well, I buy them on. I usually buy 2 or 3 copies. So one I keep in the box, one I open to play with the kids, and one sometimes I keep for later. I collect mask toys. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know how old you are, but if
I've
you're
heard
like,
of Mask, yes.
yeah, well, if you're like 35 and more, you might know this. So yeah, and Ninja Turtles, of course. I'm a big Ninja Turtle fan. So TMNT forever. Yeah, I collect these too. I collect way more than I have paid for it.
So, like,
Yeah.
how did you feel when the Turtles went live action? And it was when they had that film. I think this was like in the 90s or something, when they had their
Well,
first film, and rather than being animated, it was like, oh, you can actually see them. They're all CGI. How did you feel about that?
well, the first live movie, I think, is the best of all the movies they've made about the turtles because it focuses more on the comic books than on the cartoon that was there later. Because TMNT first is a dark comic book, and the first movie focuses more on that. It has more that vibe, that dark vibe. And obviously, I won't talk about the Michael Bay movies that have been done recently. I don't want to talk about this anymore. It's like trauma. When you've lived through something terrible, you don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I've watched them both, so I could have my say on it because I don't want to say like, oh, that looks like, no, I'm not gonna say that. That looks like, you say
You
no
want to
swearing, so
see
I'm not
it
gonna
and
swear.
then say that it's rubbish.
Yeah. Before saying that's rubbish, I have to see it because it's it's not
I
valuable
mean,
if I.
I'd like to think that part of you at least hoped that it would be good. I mean,
Of course, you
you
have
don't
hope.
go into anything hoping for it to be rubbish. And I trust that you're not one of these people who gets off on bad mouthing everything.
No. I try to be the more positive as I can. But of course, there are things I don't like and things I don't stand.
Mm-mm.
Of course, but I try to, even when I see something that I don't like, I try to focus on something else that I like more, just to change my mindset. I can't be bothered with bad thoughts or bad ideas or bad vibes. There's a lot of people out there that do it really better than me. So I leave them the negativity and I focus on positivity.
Mm-mm. That makes sense. But despite all that, it sounds like these old toys, they just rekindled that childhood love and the simpler times. And maybe that's why you're in love with them. If I could get psychoanalytical for 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's part of that. I mean, I had the chance to have a great childhood, and then a not so great teenage years. So my childhood is really important for me. That's where I constructed much of what I am today. When I was 7, I knew what I wanted to do in life was either be an astronaut or write stories for people, and that's what I did all my life. I mean, now it has the form of games, but before that, I was writing stories that are the form of books or articles in magazines and things like that. I've always stayed in that line that I had since childhood, and games and toys and all of that were always a big part of my imaginary world. As I said earlier, I'm a kind of a social outcast. I've always been. I mean, I've had a lot of friends, but I've always been kind of uh, not introverted, but into myself, like in my world. I was an only child, and and I didn't grow up with a father. So that was I had most of my childhood was with imaginary, not friends, but I was imagining a lot of stuff. Was playing, or always playing, always noting stories on books. Imagination is part of my creativity. I've always had to create like that. So yeah, toys help me even today to focus on that, to keep my kid spirit alive.
That sounds
Yeah.
lovely. And I'd like to delve a bit more into your childhood and ask what your first memories are. And of course, to anyone watching, I want to say please feel free to comment and ask questions. And I do try to get to all the respectful questions and from like follow. But what was your first memory?
I think my first memory is me. Might been like 3 years old, and I'm seated on the kitchen table at my grandparents' house, and I'm eating a tablet of chocolate I just picked up from the
Counter?
the case. No, not the counter. My grandma was coming from the store, and I was like, "What's there? What's in there? Oh, okay, chocolate. And I'm eating it, and and I'm seated on the table with big clown shoes, and I'm eating chocolate, and I have chocolate all over. And I have a picture of this, and it's my first vivid memory. Then there are some stuff you remember, some you don't. My grandparents raised me from age 3 to age let's say I want to say 8. So I have very fond memories with them. They've been really important in my life, and that's where I constructed my love for pop culture. I was watching TV, playing with toys, going to the park with my grandfather. So I was always playing. Always, there were always creativity surrounding myself.
And you
My
said
grandfather.
that,
Yeah, okay.
and like this creativity, it manifested into your desire to become an author, to write stories. And so in the park, were your grandparents often reading you stories? What games would you play? And what kinds of books would you read that made you decide, I want to be part of this? I want to be the one to also create these worlds.
Well, my grandfather told me stories, but it was more like real stories from his life, and I found that fantastic. Because when you're a kid, you haven't lived anything yet. When you're like 5, 6, or 7, you haven't seen the world yet. So when someone tells you, "Well, I've done that. When I was your age, I've done that. And when I was 20, I did that," and you just find that fantastic. You can't wait to live all that. So that was one point. Then when I was 10, I've lived for a year with my mother at my aunt's house, and she was a big Stephen King fan, and that's where I discovered. Yeah, I was 10. I discovered Stephen King, and I was like, we got there like from the day to one day to another. So my mom, I won't go into details, but she just grabbed a case with clothes on. I grabbed the first toy I had, and that was it. And we went to my aunt's house. So I was there without my universe, without my toys, without my room, without all that comfort. So I had to find another way to get comfort. Plus, situation was traumatizing enough. So I started digging into reading, and when I read books by Stephen King, I said, man, that's something else. The way he describes like real events, and now just a single twist can make you go into madness. I was like, whoa, I want to be able to do that. That's the greatest. So that's where I started to write some stuff, some doodles, and some ideas. Sometimes, pretty much when I was playing, I was always having pause moments write what was going on. It's like my toys always had script and dialogue written, you know. It was movie. I mean, I've always been a movie fan, and I think that shows today in the way I approach things and creativity. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see parallels, and it sounds like you just started going, and I guess then you started writing as soon as you could. I mean, you knew how to read, so presumably you knew how to write, and presumably you started off straight away, and you've just never slowed down.
Well, I've had moments in my life when I was busy in my head with some other things, but I've always kept creativity close to me. I mean, whatever I did it differently than most people. I had, well, I did martial arts. And I wasn't really great in sports at school, but when I did martial arts, I was great. I mean, I was doing really good, so that comforted me, you know, being the smallest kid, but having good results. And then people were asking me to help them, like, do you know, it was taekwondo, so it's more like karate. I don't know if you know it. They are kind of the same things like karate as katas. In taekwondo, it's called pumse. It's a combo of moves. You know, you are like you're fighting with people, but you're fighting in the air. It's like air fighting. And people were asking me, oh, can you help me correct my moves? And I was young, and that was really something. You know, when you're young and you see older people coming to you for help. Well, if I didn't have my mother, I might have developed big ego, you know. But hopefully, she was there to keep my feet on the ground, and and yeah, that was part of it when I was less writing and more fighting. Then when I got to like 16, my new interest was girls. So yeah, I wanted to have a girlfriend, so that was my new mission. So no more reading, no more writing, no more um, taekwondo, and I was just focusing on something. And that didn't mean that went well, but I was my focus. And I got back to writing full time for a job at the age of 20. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you've had a pretty um, solid output, and even though I've not read any of it, and let's just look at your Board Game Geek page, where there's 11 things mentioned, and you were saying that this is not even the biggest part of your library, because you've got so many games that I guess they're only really published in France, so you've not bothered to put them on Board Game Geek because I guess you think that not that many French people use it or whatever.
Well, that and the time to do it. The resource I lack more is time. I mean, I've tried to find where the you know.
I mean,
Do
come
you,
on, it takes like 20 minutes at most to work out the things and write it out for the game.
for
And
you, for me, I have to prepare myself to go there, to stop creating, to stop doing what I'm doing at the moment, and go to this website and fill in the explanations of the games and the picture and send it and come back days later to see if they have activated it. But yeah, I know I can drag some things. You know, I can have some important things that are important, but I haven't done that for like months. So
but
it's not procrastination, you know. It's a difficulty to focus on what's more important, and I've always
so
had that.
do you think that the games on Board Game Geek are necessarily the games that you are proudest of, or the games that you feel are more important, or is it fairly random which ones are here?
These are the ones that pay for my food. So in a way, in a way, they are important. These are the games that
are the ones that sold more.
Hmm?
They are the ones that sold more, basically.
Yeah, they are the one that more.
Right, let's look at your first game. So this is originally called Hollywood Death Race, and then it didn't actually come out, and it sounded like the original publisher kind of screwed everyone over.
Exactly.
And then you were prepared this year to republish it as Cosmoduck, which we'll get to, but then hey ho, someone else was interested, so you partnered with Daedalus, which made it an even bigger thing.
Yeah, well, I wanted to publish it, but I knew, as Cosmoduck is a small company, that it was going to be hard for us. So I was looking for a co-publisher. Then I found Daedalus that was interested in the game, and then we tried. We did one campaign as co-publishers, and we had to stop the campaign because many things didn't go well, and many things weren't weren't done for the best for the game. And then at the moment, I didn't have time as Cosmoduck and as myself to keep co-publishing the game. So we went to an agreement that they would solely publish the game, and I would just be the game designer for it. And I was, in a sense, that was better for me because that brought me back time that I needed in other projects. So yeah, but at least now the game has came out, and we've been able to get some copies for free for Primo backers, people that was screwed by the first campaign. So I think that's a great ending to that difficult story.
Yeah, I mean, I understand you can't offer that forever, but then it does mean that someone who wasn't paying attention comes back here and says, "Oh, I missed out again." But this is kind of unavoidable, I guess.
It's the problem is for the first campaign, I've asked Kickstarter to give us the list of people who backed. With that list, we could have easily contacted everyone, but I didn't want to for obvious rights reasons and for law reasons. So we couldn't have the list, so we had to do what we could do. I mean, social media, posting on the previous page, but we couldn't even post an official news. We had to post on the comment section.
Because you weren't able, because you were never a Kickstarter contributor for that one, officially.
Well, I was just what's called a collaborator. So,
but sometimes the collaborator is allowed to post updates, and sometimes they are not, because it depends on what privilege you get.
Yeah,
and so case,
I was just called to put comments. I couldn't do more than that. So,
but well done on trying to make it right. And just to say that I looked through, there's another video out there with OMG Nexus. So if you speak English and you want to hear more about that game, one thing I love about it is the design twist, where everyone has two racers, and it's the second one that once both of the racers have passed, then you win the game. So even if one of your racers are way in the front, the one that's a bit further behind, if people pummel that one, then you're going to lose. And then it does become a lot more violent. And I think it would be really interesting to compare that to, I forgot, there's something similar coming out in the UK that I've played not too long ago as a prototype, which is also inspired by, well, you probably weren't inspired. Do you know Wacky Racers by Hanna-Barbera?
Of course.
Okay. So that very much inspired by that.
That was the initial intention.
Okay.
That was the initial intention, yeah.
And it's just no one's done a really good Mario Kart to my knowledge, so I would be really interested to play through. But then we get to all sorts of other games through Cosmoduck, for example, Turbo Duckies.
Yeah.
And saying, my French isn't great, but I think it says, discover the fronts of the box. What do you think? Oh no, then it says in English. Check this out, I just noticed that. But, so you have it beside you. Let's look at that and tell us very quickly about this game. This is quite a big game for what Cosmoduck normally does.
That's our first game that went to shops, and yeah, that was a big project for us. It's a game that goes like a series. It has 20 episodes. It's like you're watching Power Rangers. You have characters. Here they are ducks that can transform. So on each episode they are fighting a bunch of classic enemies. Then a big boss arrives, and you have to fight. It's a cooperative game. You can play up to 4 people in the normal game. Then there's another mode like a VS mode and Overload mode, when a 5th player can play the bad guys. And it's a great game, but I would have to say that if I had to do it now today, I would have done like a simpler mechanics. I don't know when you did when you started to make games, but I'm pretty sure that the games you do today are way more easier to get and to grasp and to play than what you did initially. That's a trap many game designers fall into at the beginning.
I feel like I went through that journey just with what became Yogi, because Yogi, it started off with a much more complicated thing. But I think maybe, yes, I had 2 or 3 or more, way more actually, unpublished games. So I thought, this is good. And even on BoardGame Geek, you can see Big Fish, Little Fish, and We Van Sank, which is 2 games that you can play with traditional decks of playing cards that I was really proud of. And nowadays, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they are terrible. They're not like the worst games in the world or anything, but but then when I actually started playtesting games, these are the ones that are not even on BoardGame Geek. It's like, okay, a hex and chit counter game where you're moving things around and then you're picking things up and you're trying to fight over, and there's magic, but there's also aggression, and there's a card drafting system, and then the cards let you make creatures, and then the creatures move around the board, and then maybe you get the item and then you bring it back. And yeah, there were so many problems. And then even the original, I don't know if you played Yogi. The original version, have you played Flux by Looney Labs? So the original version was like that, but more complicated. So there was for example, steal this card from someone else, and everything you put into your discard pile, you would get points. And then some cards would be like enchantments, like Magic the Gathering. And one enchantment was, you need to stand up for the rest of the game. If you ever sit down, then you give this card to someone else, but whoever has this card at the end of the game gets 10 points. And someone said to me, well, you've got this kind of crazy game of passing things around, and then this one card, which is about physicality. Maybe if you want to make a silly physical game, do that. You don't have to make it about passing the cards around. And so it was almost like someone had given me permission. But then even then, they were like, okay, every card was almost like its own game. Then there was a card where everyone made a noise, and then the last person making the noise would get, more cards because he wanted more cards to win. And then there was something else where you ran around the table, and then the first person to sit down back in their seat would get so many points. And it's there were 54 little games, if you know what I mean. And then it was ridiculous. And then I made it simpler, but still it was too complicated where you were doing sit-ups while you were like that. And now it was more physical because I was learning, okay, physicality combined. But all through that process, this was a long thing. And I was really benefited by all the designers who were telling me, oh, make this simpler, make this simpler. Hey, get rid of that, get rid of that. And I played it at London on Board, a board game club where people play games like every night of the week practically. And it's amazing because there are so many people in London, you can do that. And I think through that journey, I learned to simplify things. And I think that was really instrumental for me, not to mention also just before that, I read through all of Mark Rosewater's stuff. And I think Mark Rosewater just does so much good in passing on so many lessons. But yes, I understand exactly what you mean, that when I started designing, they never came out, but I would have started off from a much more complex place. Whereas now it's like, if someone suggests, oh, you could do this, it's like, why? And then, you know, for my, or if even my own mind says, oh, you could do this, then I'm asking myself why, because like sometimes 2 rules is enough for a game.
Yeah, what does it bring to the game is the first
Exactly,
question
that's
you
the
have
fundamental
to,
question.
yeah.
100%.
Because less is more, you know. There's a saying that goes like, a game is not over when you can't add anything, but when you can't remove anything. And that's really the way we at Cosmoduck we see games now. We do simple games, but not simple in the kind of poor, you know, but simple, not simplistic, but simple in the meaning of the fewest material and the fastest time to get the game. And so that's the funnier way, we think. We're not saying we have the truth, you know. I won't say that a game of I don't know, Zombicide is not fun, but that's not what we do. So
yeah,
yeah,
and there's
less is more.
definitely, if you're trying to be simulationist about your game and are trying to be really evocative, then it makes sense that you need to have one rule for the shotgun and then another rule for the laser gun, because you want them to feel different somehow. But you need to think about your target audience. And for me, especially as someone who likes to play a lot of games, I do have a great appreciation for games. When I design, you know, things that I'm taking to a new convention, I almost want to be able to explain it in 30 seconds. I mean, actually, this one, a game about quickly matching words to pictures, but never words to words or pictures to pictures. It's taken me maybe 5 seconds to tell you the title, which tells you half the rules. And then the other half of the rules, if I actually had it on the table, we could just start playing straight away within 5 seconds. I'm not exaggerating. And, you have the cards, you separate them. If there's a match of a word to picture, slap your cards down, say the word, you get those cards, and then it keeps on going. Speed game. And I do appreciate the strategy and the implications that you can get with a game that does slightly more. I mean, Danny, for example, is a social game, but it does have a little bit of weirdness. So I encountered this, I want to say, in Cannes, maybe 2019. And I was like, okay, wow, it's got like almost a social deduction feel, but then it's got a kind of Dixit feel, where you're trying to clue in some people with what the emotions are or what the feelings are, and then you're trying to sometimes not do the most obvious thing. Can you explain this game in your own words?
Well, I really love Danny. It's really one of my favorite games I've made, because it really allows you to get into the head of the people you're playing with. Because the way I'm gonna, you said Dixit, and there are parts of it that can make you think about Dixit, but in Danny you can overlap the cards if you want, one on top of the other. You can have cards played face down. You can really use your creativity again, to create a story with the cards you have. And what I wanted what I wanted people to experience with this was the fact of sometimes what you have in mind. It's not what you're. It's not easy to explain to people, and sometimes what you explain to people is not perceived as you wanted. And that doesn't mean that you've explained it wrong. It just means that there are so many ways to see a picture.
And
I don't
there's
know
a
if you,
few interesting design choices here. Like when one person tries to communicate something, it's one person, I think it's to their left, who is then the person who says, okay, this is what I believe.
to the
And,
right, but yeah,
oh, sorry, to the right.
oh, it's okay, it's okay. It doesn't
But
change
the
that much.
point is that you say this is the one person. It's not like everyone has to vote on it. It's not as if people come to a consensus. It's a dictatorship. That person says what they think. And I mean, it's interesting because the French attitude of writing rules is completely the opposite of the German style. So in German games, you have to be very precise and you say, this is the game. Whereas in the French style, sometimes there are things which, even for some English speakers, some people say these are not good rules because they don't teach the entire game. And obviously, there's the intent, it's all about the social dynamic where people will be discussing and saying, hey, you didn't, most of us said this, but then you went to something else. Why did you do that? Does that mean that you're against us? Does that mean that you're essentially the traitor? Or, but, the person over there to the right is the person who gets to be, and yeah, that's just a really interesting design choice. Why did you choose that? Is that to give opportunities for the traitor to kind of mess things up?
Well, not really, because in this game, if you're the traitor and people knows you're the traitor, you can't win.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. But you want
so
to say, one of you thinks that, four of you think that, but I kind of really agree with you, so I'm going to take a chance. And then you can kind of be, and that gives you a chance, even if you actually agree with the four, then you can sort of bluff like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to agree with that one person over there.
I think
And
I like doubt. I like people doubting. Like, is he stupid, or is he just the traitor, or is he just he has an ego so great that he can see that four of us told him that was the third one, and he said the fourth one. Why did he do that? So I like that. I mean, I like when there's life around the table. I've seen people playing games and they're like super serious and super concentrated, and that's cool, but that's not at all the way I see things. When I create games, I want people to laugh. I want people to have a good time. I want to leave a mark, an impression, a positive impression on people. Uh, like anyone, someday I'm gonna die, and maybe now that
we
I've
all
gamed
will.
out, yeah, we all will.
Maybe we will die tomorrow, who knows?
Yeah,
Hopefully not.
hopefully not. It would be better if not. But yeah, now that I have games and people are playing games, well, I know that I'm touching people's emotions anywhere in the world, without even knowing them, and that's a feeling that I can even begin to describe. It's like immortality, because maybe if people keep playing some of my games years after I'm gone, well, I'm still there in a way, I'm still giving, and I'm still there giving joy and good memories to people, and that's the most important part for me. It's not like I'm there dissing on people, or like I've written a book on someone I hate. That would be
Oh yeah,
awful.
absolutely. I mean, I think that's the key thing. Like, absolute. This kind of goes without question. Like, if you were someone who was bringing karma and hurts into the world, I like to think that we wouldn't even be speaking. And I do want to note that it has been an hour, and I do want to start wrapping up. I'd like to
Okay.
maybe, if we can, race through some of your other games because I've lined them up, and then we'll flick through some of the pictures on the Facebook that you shared with me, and we'll talk more about Cosmoduck another time when we can chat again.
With pleasure.
So, this game, Pas vu, pas pris, don't see, don't, price? Pre is price?
Yeah,
Maybe,
I
but
think the English name of the game is Run Ghost Run.
it is. But this is the board game geek told me basically nothing, and I couldn't understand the French well enough to understand the mechanism. So can you tell us about this?
Yeah, it's a game of hide and seek on a board with furniture and mini ghosts. So the point of the game is you start from one point and you have to go on the other side of the board to get out on the other side of the board with your ghost. And each time a turn ends, someone is gonna look. There's a keyhole there. It's a 3D keyhole you have to build, and you put it on any of the doors, and you look through the keyhole. And each ghost you see through the keyhole has to go back at the start of its position. So it's like a game of hide and seek, and you can move furniture. You can hide under some of them. You can. It's a really fun game, and it's meant to be a kids game, but it's the kids game the adults play with more.
That is really cool. What I like about this, I understood that it was themed around hide and seek. I didn't understand that there was actually a bit that you look through, and it's about, I guess there's a sense of, well, you need to be honest. Obviously, you can't just say you see something if you don't see it. But that's the kind of unique things that we can do in games that just haven't been done before. And I think that's brilliant. That's inventiveness. Then, I actually saw the Kickstarter for this, and it's a very random game. Everyone shows a number of fingers, and then the bomb goes round at many, and then it keeps on going round. But if someone shows 0, then it gets flipped to the RO side, and if someone else shows 0, then it explodes, and that person's eliminated until it gets to 2 people, and one of them will probably win. But also, if no one does 0, then it just explodes and everyone loses. And I was not too sure how it works with 2 people, because presumably, I was a bit confused, but I'm sure it's been tested, and but it feels like something that it would be, I could imagine being like fun around the drinks as you're just playing for many games. And talk a bit about the success of this.
Just end your phrase. Come on.
No, so the success of this because it was self-published, you went through Kickstarter. How did it go?
Well, it got better than what we thought, because it was at the beginning it was. I won't say it was a joke, because that's not a joke, but it was more like a bet. We were imagining what can we do to have the lesser components possible in a game, and we came out with 0. But we thought, man, it's hard to sell 0, so we have to at least put one piece, one thing, because 0 would mean we only sell the idea, and I personally think that you can sell an idea because the idea is the start of anything. At the start of your game, there's an idea.
But then isn't that kind of what a role-playing system is, where it has 0 components, and then you bring your own pencil and paper and stuff?
Well, there it's just 1 card. So yeah, we did this game, the 1 card game, and we've had people loving it, and we've had people hating it. I've had people calling me names just because, man, how could you? It's 1 game. You sell it for €3. Well, there's half of it is the postal fee, so that's 150. But yeah, what do you want to do? At least I did it. I've tried something, and people still play it. People still like it. I have shops in France that are selling it in shops. So that's pretty cool.
How do they sell it? I mean, presumably there's no barcode. Presumably it's just a stack of cards, and then they sell the card for like how much?
I think they have now the version sold in stores do feature the rules in like a small sheet of paper. I was looking. Oh yeah, I have one here. So that's the version sold in shops. You have the
Okay.
card in a sleeve, plastic sleeve, and you have the rules there. So the rules are bigger than the game itself. Yeah. And I think they have it on counters or something, you know. They're not having like on
Out of
the,
curiosity, how much is that sold for?
I think €3 in shops.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because, you know, price flexibility, because at the point that someone would buy it for €1, they would probably buy it for €2. And if you were to sell it for less, then it's also like, okay, the distribution cost, the price that you can actually sell it to the shop for, you've got to make. And that's the thing, like the idea, even though it's hard to sell the idea, I think it would be good for us to remember that ideas do have some value. And
Exactly.
it's a weird thing because I've got a game that I am going to give away free for Best Day, which is 1st of August. But maybe I've been thinking maybe I'll say, okay, sign up to my mailing list, and on 1st of August, I will send everyone this game for free. But and maybe there will also be some way that you can download it, but just for that one day. And then after maybe 48 hours, I will delete it from my Google Drive. And then, you know, maybe there will be a second edition. I don't know. Because I like the idea of saying, okay, if you can't afford anything, you have access to it. But at the same time, we do have to remember that things have value, and it's really easy to minimize the value of yourself sometimes.
Yeah. We did that during COVID with Cosmoduck. We've given 2 games, maybe 3 games, like downloadable for free. But what we did is we said, okay, you can download this game for free, but we ask you if you can make a donation to said company or said association. You know, we did the game for kids, and we said, okay, you can get the game for free, but please, if you can, make a donation to this goodwill. I don't remember what it was, but it was for kids, for orphan kids. So yeah, so now maybe you're saying, okay, I don't have any money, I'll just get the game, but okay, I can give €3, €5, you know, for this. We didn't took any money because we were starting
And
to do
that's
it.
like also a really nice way to do it, because then you are supporting someone else, and it reminds people that that thing also has value.
Yeah,
Because I
that's
think it
important.
is a dangerous line when, yeah, to go down. But let's keep rushing through. Finally,
Yes.
I would like to talk about this game, where you chuck some meatballs into the box and then they fight. How does that work exactly?
Well, you have your meeples, and everyone plays at the same time. The box is small for the purpose of the of being easier to fight. Um, and then, well, I could open it to show you, but we'll do that another time. So yeah, you just throw your meeples on the box, and they get to each other. And if your meeple is on his feet on the side, he keeps fighting. If he's on the back, he's just stunned. But if he's on the front, like face down, he's KO. So
Okay.
everyone is gonna do three launches with any meeples they have, and if at the end of the
And
third launch,
presumably you need to do it from like a certain height. You can't just go there and then drop it from like
yeah,
1 centimeter
well, I
above.
don't remember exactly what the rule says, but everyone plays it like the box is there, and you're throwing there from here, you know. Because if you're 4 players around the table, you won't even do that, you know. You have to throw them, and the fun is in throwing them. I mean, you can't even control. You can't control anything. I mean, even from this from this height, if you let go a meeple, nothing tells you that it's gonna land on his feet, you know. So you go like each Nissan, and you steal them. You throw them. Each Nissan, which is
1,
1,
2,
2,
3.
3 in Japanese, yeah. And the game is really fun. There's a part where you have to do like meeple placement. You try to get neighborhood from Tokyo. and then you go to fight. That's a fun game. I really love this game. It's been on development for some time now, and now it's out, and it's going great for the moment.
Well, congratulations. And
Thanks.
I feel like, I was really hoping that we'd get to chat about, how Cosmoduck came to be and how, you decided to start publishing and how you decided to start publishing other people's things. But as you said, maybe that can be a story for another time.
It's okay for me.
I have already shown wee bits of this, which was we are talking about having a game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after some mixed noises. And you have slightly shortened the title to
Slightly.
Creature.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah. I personally love long titles, and yours always make me laugh so hard. But for the French market, I'm afraid we have to do something like a little shorter. But
I think even for the British markets or US market, the titles are ridiculous. I was never expecting them to be kept the same if it's published by anyone else.
Well, I think creators works well because it gives you the meaning of the game, like making sounds to find out which creator it is. So
And
yeah,
in French, this would be créature.
Creature.
Créature.
Creature. Creature. Yeah, as you wish. You can have the being as long as you want. Yeah.
And you suggested that there might even be a special edition with potentially more cards and
and
something
in a furry
box.
And the furry box would be so great.
It's fascinating because when Kitty Cataclysm got funded and I had to go fairly low, someone said to me, "Oh, now that it's funded, could you do a furry box?" And I said, "Well, I understand that Bears Against Babies did it already, but it costs so much and I'm barely funded. I don't think there's any way for me to do this. So how can you make that viable, in terms of money, or is that maybe a conversation for next time?"
Yeah, that may be conversation for next time. And you know why? Because next time I will have prices and returns from manufacturers. So I'll be able to answer this question.
Okay.
For the moment, it's just something I'd love to do, but I don't know if I could do a furry box. But on next time.
Yes, that's just to be clear. All the stuff that has been shown today, regarding Creature might or might not happen. Nothing is finalized. I just want to make that clear.
Nothing is signed yet.
And now we get to the point where you can ask me a question. Question of the day. Question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. What's a question that you'd like to ask me? And maybe all the viewers at home can also answer.
Well, have you? Okay, so the obvious question would have been, are you signing with us? But that's going to be personal between us. No, I have a question for you. Yeah. Have you ever been to Paris? And what did you think of it? And what did you think of France?
Okay, so that's a question for myself and everyone at home. Have you ever been to Paris? And what did you think of it? And if not, have you ever been to France? And what did you think of it? So I have been to Paris. I did go up the Eiffel Tower. I went to the Louvre and, I saw a lot of nice paintings. But most of the paintings, I remember they were quite realistic, if you know what I mean. Like they're kind of that Renaissance period, which is not my favorite style of art, to be honest. Like it's nice, but maybe if I went today, I understand art more because I went when I was very, very young. It honestly, my biggest memory is of wandering around one of my parents was trying to find somewhere for us to stay because there was a problem with the place that they had booked, and then we were told, "Oh no, there's no more places here. So we were wandering around trying to find somewhere to stay until finally we found somewhere, and it was like, hooray. Also, I did go to Euro Disney, and at Euro Disney, the really terrible thing happened. So I have this attitude that I would keep the best things until the end. And so in Euro Disney, I was like, okay, these sounds like the best rides. Let's do them at the end. And it was just me and one of my parents. And then went through, and then I got lost. We got separated. And then I was spent half the day basically in this room where hopefully the parents would come over and find you. But then my parent didn't, I can't remember why, but like they didn't find me until the end of the day, and they were so sorry, and we were meant to go back, but so it was a comfortable place, and they gave me snacks, and they had Disney films, so it wasn't like I was completely bored. I got to watch films at least. It was like it wasn't like a big cinema or anything. It was like a TV screen, but yeah, it wasn't the going around the best ride. So that kind of taught me that maybe don't always keep the best things until the end, because you never know if you'll even get there. Do you know what I mean? And it's like now I kind of do that with food, because if I'm at a buffet, I used to be like, I will have literally everything. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? I don't need to have the chips. I've had enough chips. I don't need to have the roast potatoes. I mean, I do really, really good roast potatoes. I'm a big fan of roast potatoes. But what that means is that if I have someone else's roast potatoes, they'll probably be substandard. Like for me, like if I've got roast potatoes that are 8 out of 10, I want my roast potatoes that are like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. And so I will have their hoisin duck. Let's stuff myself with the things that are actually tasting good. Let's just go for all the good things, and then maybe go for all the good things again, and even have more of them. And also, like, sometimes good things are worse when you're tired, or when sometimes some things can happen. And I think that's the thing that I learned that day. But
that's called getting older.
Yeah. Maybe that day I got older.
We all do.
So over to you. What are you up to? You can share Botsley if you want to. Today, Chris is going to come over. I'm going to do a proper stock take. I'm going to redo my shop. So hopefully within a couple of days, if you go to my shop, you will be able to buy more of my things, because I'll know exactly how many are left, and I'm going to upgrade, because currently I'm on the free plan, which you can only sell 5 things at a time. And then on the paid plan, you can sell 50 things, which means that not only can I sell all my games, but I can even sell maybe some original artwork, because also now with the paid plan, I can say there's only one copy of this, so once one person buys it, then no one else can buy it. So hopefully that works. But I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to, before tomorrow, I'm going to do a couple of prototypes. I'm going to maybe, play a game about selecting 7 cards, speedily searching for synergies, where it's kind of like speed drafting. It's not super speedy, so it takes like there's moments where you might think, and then it's like it's a strategic speed game. So you sometimes get 30 seconds to make your turn, but then if you want the same card and the other person goes there like half a second before you, then they get it. And I've had games where it's, do I want it? And then the other person is like about to get it, and I just go underneath. But then sometimes I lose because I didn't really want it, but I just wanted to take it to annoy them. And I'm that kind of player who will just do things to annoy people or to mess with people, which is probably not to my advantage. But yes, it's going to be, it still needs a lot of work. And also the free game that I'm going to do for Bez Day, 1st of August, which it's about adding up cubes. You roll your dice, you stack your cubes together, bigger piles of cubes or big robots, they can stomp onto smaller robots. But then the bigger robots, they move slower. So if you've got 5 cubes, then you subtract 4 from whatever the die roll is. And if you've got 6, then you subtract 5. And if you've got 7, then you can't even move it. because you subtract 6. So you need to now separate the robots in order to be able to move around. And the first person to make it all the way around wins the game, but you're blocking each other. And I think that's a bit of playtesting that. And tonight I get to go to Salsa. And also, what I discovered is last week, between Salsa and Bachata, there's 1 hour gap. And then everyone there, it was like, well, would you like to play a board game maybe? And I had like some games in my bag, and we're like, oh, this is quite fun. So today I'll take a few more games and we'll see what we play. So that will be exciting. Sort of try and get them to, obviously, something like this where it's like 30 seconds or less than a minute to explain the game, and everyone's like, yeah, let's play that together. And then you play a couple of times. And then someone beats me, and I'm like, man, they're beating me at my own game. But yes, what are you up to? What are you up to today?
Well, today it's a holiday in France, and well, I'm on holiday, so that doesn't matter for me. I will work a little bit on a prototype game. Some publisher in France asked me for. He told me, okay, we had a licensing proposal. So I won't say what, but I might say I could be the guy for it. So he told me, yeah, we know you like it, so would you want to work on it? I said, yeah, of course, I'm in. So I'm working on the prototype now. So this afternoon I might work a little bit on that. And if the sun is yeah, and if the sun is with us and it's not too hot out there, I might go like to a park with my dog and my girlfriend. Yeah, to get some fresh air, underneath a tree or something like that.
Awesome.
Throwing frisbee to the dog. Yeah, it's we are having days with the lesser field days now. I'm about to be a father, so any day now. So we are doing it slow, we are not like running everywhere and working hard. We're like, yeah, we are stepping up, down. What would be the correct way to say it? We're like doing cool,
yeah, we're putting on the brakes. We're taking.
We're
putting our feet up.
Yeah, we're like, okay. Now this can happen. She's pregnant up to her ears now. So
I mean, hopefully not. That would be a really weird place for the baby to be.
Hopefully not. Yeah. Well, I mean, you would hear us great at least, but no, but it's coming now, like for the end of the
that
maybe.
Sounds really exciting, and so congratulations to the both of you. And at this point, I bet to recap and wrap up before we finish up. We talked about so much today. We talked about what is a big name in games. We talked about the ego and giving feedback and how we play test a little bit. We talked about having stress when going to conventions, and a little bit about what we enjoy about having food and teeth and saying, yeah, if someone's got food on your chin. We talked about Jojo, the narcoleptic pigeon, and the rolling rights, and all those things. I should probably put the pictures back up. There we go, the rolling rights sorts of anthology. And we talked about Durags. We talked about Pacific Warriors and toys and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, about wanting to be an astronaut, which maybe went into the name of your company, I guess, because we talked about your wanting to tell stories, falling in love with Stephen King, about the connection that you had with your parents and your grandparents and moving across to your aunt, about getting into fighting with Taekwondo, and then getting into writing, and then girls, and then getting back into writing. We talked about your old games, about the troubles with, Hollywood Death Race, which has finally come out as Hollywood Racers. And then we talked about Turbo Duckies, about the desire for simplification, and Danny, and what communication even means, and about games that involve the players around the table, about looking for a keyhole. I mean, that's just fantastic. And starting off with a challenge to yourself that inspires an entire game. Die rolling and having something knockabout where you throw things in and potentially working together. And we will definitely chat about something else in the future. Well, I'd love to have you on to chat about Cosmoduck in general. And there's so many more stories that we could have chatted about. Yeah. But it has been lovely to chat. And for now, I would ask people to remember that if they want to find me, then of course you can find me at Stuff by Bez in all of the places, Twitter, Instagram, all those places. But also, please do check out my contest, which is stuffbybez.com/contest or stuffbybez.com/art contest. So if you are able to draw 7 letters, then just draw the letters T, H, E, L, D, C, and K. Then go and check it out. And yeah, my art contest, you will upload some pictures. There's also the game design contest if you want to make a game design for the L deck. And Phil, where would you like to be found in general?
Well, in my home, in good health. Now for the social media, you can find us at cosmoduck.com, which is our official site. We're on Facebook /Cosmoduck Games, and we're on Instagram /Cosmoduck Games too. Then there's my personal professional Facebook page. You can find me. You type my name and you'll find me. And that's pretty much it. I'm not really fond of social media, but I'm there because you have to be there. So yeah, these links, and sometimes in conventions.
Sate says they want to try my roast potatoes.
I do too.
I may have overstated it slightly, but I will say that saying my roast potatoes are 9 out of 10, or 10 out of 10, it's maybe a bit much. And also, I make the roast potatoes that I like. Do you know what I mean? I like roast potatoes with a bit of cumin and a bit of oregano and a bit of thyme and a bit of salt. But then I like them cut at acute angles to get the extra crispiness. I like them kind of tossed up quite a bit so they're a bit fluffy inside. And I like them a good amount of oil. I know it's not the healthiest thing, but yeah. At this point, we could dribble on and talk for hours and hours, but let's not do that. Tomorrow I am going to chat about something. It'll just be a quick 5-10 minute chat on my way to playtest. Maybe I will stream from right outside National Theatre if I get there in time, and you'll see what it's like outside. On Saturday, I will be showing off a game, maybe playing something solo, and on Sunday, I will be pondering a mechanic. I will be pondering the action timer, and as seen most commonly in Kitchen Rush, game by Dave Turksey. But I want to say thank you, everyone. Please feel free to share, spread the word. And the only thing left to say at this point is lots of love. And of course, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye, everyone.
Bye.